周二，日本学者远藤裕在美国国家记者俱乐部介绍他的新书《毛泽东勾结日军的真相》。书中披露，抗战期间，毛泽东曾通过潘汉年和日本间谍机构岩井公馆接触，要求停火，并向日本出卖国军情报，以达到自我壮大的目的。
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, Richard Burton, and Project 2049 for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And hello, everyone. My name is Homare Endo. It's my great honor to have the chance to speak at this conference today. I was born in China in 1941, and after receiving an education in Maoism, I moved to Japan in 1953. So my native language is Chinese. But in Japan, I only use Japanese and sometimes Chinese on a daily basis, so my English is not fluent. But today, I'd like to try to speak in English, so please forgive my poor pronunciation. Now, let's begin with the PowerPoint. When I was 7 years old, I experienced the Chinese Civil War after the defeat of Japan, and the city Changchun, where I lived, was wholly surrounded with barbed wire by the Communist Army for nearly 1 year. The blockade led to the starvation of hundreds of thousands of Chinese people in 1948. I still remember the feeling of sleeping on the ground alongside numerous dead bodies. In the hope of putting the spirits of the victims to rest, I published the book entitled Earth Without Exist in 1984 in Japanese. I sincerely wanted to have this book published in mainland China in Chinese and made my best efforts to achieve this over the last 30 years, but in vain. The restrictions on freedom of speech in China are simply too severe. I could only publish the Chinese version, 甲子没有出口的大地, in Taiwan, and the English version in the United States, Japanese Girl, at the siege of Changchun, How I Survived China's Wartime Atrocity. The main aim of the Chinese government's controls of freedom of speech is, of course, to maintain the single-party rule. But we cannot overlook the terrifying secrets hidden behind these controls. It's a fact that Mao Zedong, the founding father of the People's Republic of China, conspired with the Japanese army during the Sino-Japanese War. Mao's single purpose was to weaken the military power of the Chinese Nationalist Party, the Kuomintang, or KMT, led by Chiang Kai-shek, Jiang Jieshi. Mao sent many communist spies to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan and the Japanese army to give them military intelligence about the Chinese Nationalist Party. This intelligence was obtained at the Central National Government in Chongqing by cooperation between the Nationalist Party and the Communist Party, and was sold for a high price to the Japanese side. Recently, I found detailed evidence based on Japanese insider information and revealed the behavior of Mao during the Sino-Japanese War. By comparing the materials in Japan with those in China, I published in Japan last year a book titled 毛沢東、日本軍と共謀した男, Mao Zedong, the man who conspired with the Japanese army. And recently, I published the Chinese version, 毛泽东勾结日军的真相, with the Mira Media Group in New York. The English version is currently being translated. Now, let me share with you several points from my findings. The biggest cache of evidence in Japan is the memoirs written by Mr. Iwai Eiichi. Almost all the communist spies made contact with Mr. Iwai at the so-called Iwai official residence in Shanghai, one of the organizations of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan. The name of the most well-known communist spy was Pan Hannian, This name Pan Han appears very frequently in the book 回想の上海, Memoirs in Shanghai, written by Iwai. This book, this one. I also investigated declassified insider intelligence recorded during the Sino-Japanese War, kept in the diplomatic archives of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan. This is the first time these documents have been shown in the original form. Would you please look at the correlation map, Conspiracy between Communist Spies and the Japanese Army? The left-hand side of the map lists the key members of Mao's spy operation and their chain of command. On the right-hand side of the map, the organization of the Japanese side is shown, with which the communist spies made contact. In 1939, Mao ordered Pan to infiltrate the Iwai official residence. One day, Iwai was very surprised to hear an offer from Pan. Pan said to Iwai, "We, the Communist Army, want to make a ceasefire with the Japanese Army." In response to Pan's request for ceasefire, Iwai introduced him to the staff officer of the Japanese Army. Pan went to the top military advisory office of the Nanjing government and met Major General Kagesa of the Japanese Army. Through an introduction made by General Kagesa, Pan met the top leader, Wang Jingwei, of the Nanjing government, which was the puppet government of Japan. In addition to conspiring with the Japanese Army, Mao sought to collude with the Japanese-controlled Nanjing puppet government and ordered Pan to negotiate. Mao's key motive in this endeavor was to leave the fight against Japan to Chiang Kai-shek and to concentrate on building the might of his own communist army. In 1955, 6 years after the birth of the People's Republic of China, Pan and subsequently nearly 1,000 other communist spies were arrested, jailed, and silenced. They knew too much. After Mao's death, there were many biographies published in mainland China about Pan, who perished in prison. Among these biographies, the following description can be found. Pan received a monthly payment of 2,000 Hong Kong yuan from Iwai for the provision of intelligence and a payment of 10,000 Hong Kong yuan for publishing magazines on an irregular basis. At that time, these payments were equal to several hundreds years' salary for a Hong Kong public servant in total. Most of this was spent on generating publicity, which played a role in winning the hearts of the people and attracting them to the CCP. It is especially noteworthy that Mao, through his life, neither held a celebration of victory for the Sino-Japanese War, nor permitted writing about the Nanjing Massacre in school textbooks. I'd like to share with you several pieces of evidence. This is a chronological list edited by the CCP concerning Mao's life from his birth to death. This is a series of books in 9 volumes. This one, this is one of them. It is surprising that on Victory Day in 1950, the first day after the birth of China, there is no record of Mao's action regarding Victory Day. The first entry appears on September 2nd, 1951. And on that day, Mao only sent a telegram of congratulation to Joseph Stalin, who was the top leader of the former Soviet Union. On September 3rd, Victory Day, Mao did nothing about the victory ceremony. He spent the day in his private chambers checking documents concerning Tibet and discussing other domestic matters. On Victory Day in 1952, Mao did almost the same thing. On September 2nd, in 1953, Mao sent a telegram to the new leader of the Soviet Union following the Stalin's death in March of that year. Moreover, the contents of this telegram were mainly about the Korean War Truce Treaty. On Victory Day, September 3rd, Mao did nothing once again. After 1955, he completely ignored Victory Day. For him, the celebration of this victory would have only served to congratulate Stalin or Chiang Kai-shek, who had actually fought against Japan. Mao himself knew the truth. On the day of the Nanjing Massacre, December 13th, 1937, only 4 kanji characters, Nanjing Shi Xian, appear in the record. These 4 characters, Nanjing Shi Xian, mean that Nanjing has fallen. The word massacre is not present, and we can't find any description about so-called Nanjing hereafter. I'd like to share with you the entries after the birth of the People's Republic of China. Please look at the right-hand side of this picture. On December 13th, there is no entry. Like this, Mao completely ignored the Nanjing Massacre throughout his life. We can interpret these 2 symbolic facts to mean that Mao didn't want people to know the following. That is, it was not the Communist Army, but the Nationalist Army that mainly fought against Japan during the Sino-Japanese War. But after the Tiananmen Square protests in 1989, and after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, China was forced to emphasize how great the Chinese Communist Party is in order to avoid a chain reaction resulting in the potential collapse of China. As a result, from 1994, China launched a project for patriotic education, which asserts that the Communist Army defeated Japan in the Sino-Japanese War. Last year, for the first time after the foundation, China held a military parade on Anti-Fascism Victory Day. Today, China, which claims to be the champion against fascism, is working on programs to advance its global hegemony in military, economic, and even cultural spheres. The famous scholar of the history of the CCP, Mr.辛灝年was present at a speech given by former top Chinese leader Hu Yaobang in 1979. According to his testimony, Hu Yaobang said that if someday the Chinese people learn the true history of the CCP, they would overthrow the Chinese government. This is completely consistent with my analysis of Mao Zedong. If someday all the people of China came to know the truth about Mao, the CCP would lose its mandate instantaneously, and the Chinese government would collapse. I believe the people of China are intelligent and able to comprehend the true history of the CCP. So, for fear of this, China is ramping up its suppression of freedom of speech and denies universal values such as rule of law in an attempt to legitimize their government and one-party rule. Consequently, China will continue to expand its global hegemony in order to strengthen the domestic leadership of the Communist Party. But hegemony without democracy places the future of the world in peril. The so-called history card played by China is not entirely aimed at Japan. The real objective is to weaken the United States, which has a security treaty with Japan. China wants to be the world's greatest superpower in order to maintain one-party rule within China. Finally, as for Japan, I'm definitely against wars of aggression. Japan ought not to repeat such a historical folly. Under this precondition, I hope the Chinese people have the courage to face up to the truth about Mao Zedong. I also hope the international community becomes aware of this truth, which may help us have a better understanding of the world we live in today. Thank you.
历史学家辛灝年认为，书中披露的罪证足以让人们把中共视为抗日战争中的第二个汉奸集团。
远藤裕教授在他的书里面非常清楚明白地指出了中国共产党及其延安政府在整个抗日战争当中消极抗战、假抗战、不打日寇、专打国军、与日寇勾结等等的出卖民族和国家的行为，特别是他揭露的潘汉年和日本间谍机关岩井公馆的关系，甚至于让日本在经济上给中共提供资源，像这样一些丑闻，足以将中共延安政府推上抗日战争当中第二个汉奸集团的历史地位。远藤裕教授对此做出了最大的贡献，他把这个罪证公之于众了。1979年的2月，我因为参加全国长篇小说创作座谈会，在北京亲自聆听了胡耀邦先生的一次报告。在这个报告当中，胡耀邦先生曾经捶着桌子说了一句话，叫做要是让人民知道了我们共产党的历史，人民就要起来推翻我们了。